What does a radiologic technologist do? We are going along in our series here, the Xray Techs Survival Guide, breaking down all that is radiography. Now, the big question here for this video is what does a rad tech do? And it's a fairly complicated explanation, but I'm going to break it down for you. A quick break in. I'm going nuts with this video. I keep trying to re-record it. I get to these topics like what is an X-ray tech, and my first inclination is to say, go search it up on YouTube because there's 1,000 videos from people telling you what a radiology tech is. But then I go and look at them and they're crap. And then I get frustrated because that's one of the main reasons I started this channel 3 years ago, was to give you information about what we do from the perspective of someone who actually does it. I hate throwing people under the bus, but like there's this guy, How Radiology Works. That's the name of his channel. Well, let me hop in there real quick, and I'm going to go to his channel. I was just watching his video. Hang on here. Oh my gosh, stop. The video is titled "Become a Rad Tech," right? Okay. So here's the thing. I get everybody is allowed to have an opinion. We're all allowed to have opinion, and then there's freedom of speech. And what I hope you understand is that just because somebody's telling you something in a video doesn't mean they know what they're talking about. And it doesn't matter what they put on the screen, or if maybe they wear scrubs to make it look like they're medical personnel or whatever. This particular channel, Become a Rad Tech, and it's been viewed 5,000 times. Hop over to his About Me page, and you see that, well, actually, he doesn't even tell you what his credentials are there. I actually went, he shows that you can buy him coffee, so it gives his name. So I took his name and I went, and this is what I recommend you do with your future employers. If you want to get a job at a hospital, research them, and I do another video about this, and I'm going off the rails here for a minute, but give me just a second. Research people on LinkedIn for one thing, because if they're true professionals, they'll have a LinkedIn profile, and I recommend you get one as well if you're going to get into the field for a lot of reasons. But I look him up, and he is the principal scientist for GE Healthcare. But he's telling us how to become a rad tech, but he's a principal scientist for GE. Okay, well maybe he was a tech first and then he got into this field. So let's see. View full profile. Let's see. Experience. Adjunct professor at the University of Wisconsin. Okay. Principal scientist at GE Healthcare. Okay. Now we get into his education. The University of Wisconsin, he has a PhD in medical physics. That doesn't mean he's not a tech, but nowhere in his profile does he mention being a tech, have credentials for being a tech. His bachelor's is in physics. His doctorate is in physics. I just want you to get information from people who actually do it and know it and work with it. Like I've been a radiology director for over 10 years. I've hired hundreds of technologists, interviewed even more. And so just be careful who you're getting information from. And it's not that this channel's information is all that inaccurate. Actually, if you watch the video I'm talking about, he shares a lot of the exact same information I gave in one of my videos about 3 years ago. So I'm going to let this video that I'm doing now, I'm going to let it resume. But my problem with this video is, you're here at this point in this course, you're here to learn what it is that we do. And so I'm trying to keep it on a real basic level, but it's kind of hard when you know so much about what they do. Like when I resume the video, you'll see that I start kind of going off on tangents, and it's hard not to. And really all this video should say is an X-ray tech is a person who comes in, takes an X-ray of your body and gives the image to the doctor, and then you're done. But one of the rubs we have as techs is when we get called button pushers, because people outside of our world don't know anything about all the schooling we go through and all the work we do and all the clinical hours and everything that we go through in order to get to the board exams. And then we have to pass the board exams. And so to people outside, all they see is that we push a button and we get an X-ray. Well, we know better, and we take a little bit of offense to being called a button pusher. But it's important that you filter what you're getting out there. And that's another reason why I'm even doing this whole survival guide thing, is to put out accurate information from somebody who actually does it, has been in it for a long time. And so anyway, I'll resume the normal video, and we'll just keep rolling along with the series. Sorry to interrupt. Because Xray Techs do a ton of stuff. We're going to cover things like can Xray Techs administer medication? Can Xray Techs do ultrasounds? Can we take verbal orders? Can Xray Techs become a radiologist? Can Xray Techs become a radiation therapist? These are all common questions that I get. What is a limited radiologic technologist? What is a cheap radiologic technologist? We're going to cover a lot of the basics of what a Rad Tech, Xray Tech, a radiographer, a radiologic technologist, whatever you want to call it. We're going to cover that in this video. And there are a lot of other things that fall kind of under this umbrella, but we will talk about in a separate video. I've got stuff to talk about on what a typical day looks like for a Rad Tech in the hospital setting, what a typical day looks like for a Rad Tech in the clinical setting, a lot of different things about what it's like to be a Rad Tech, but what does a Rad Tech do? Okay. So an X-ray tech is the person that is the one that they come in your room at the hospital or the outpatient clinic or the doctor's office, wherever you're at. They come in the room and they try to, as gently as possible, position your injured body part on a table, or it could be done standing up. And then they use the equipment to take an image of that body part. We are taught to image a particular body part, any particular body part, in at least two different planes. And by planes, I mean directions on the body. So if you take an X-ray of a hand, for example, or like this forearm up here, that is an AP view. But if there were a fracture in that image, it could be hidden based on overlapping structures or any number of things. So the best way to verify or rule out if there is something wrong is to image a body part from kind of two different angles, if you will. So there will always be, and now unless there's a trauma, and there are certain times when you only do one image, but X-ray techs are trained to do at least two images, sometimes up to 7 images, depending on what's being looked for or looked at. But in general, the X-ray tech is the person who's trained to bring the imaging equipment into the room or take you to the imaging equipment. We can go mobile and bring it to you. It depends on the situation. But they as gently as possible with the patient, take images of the body part in question and then return those images back to a radiologist or the doctor who looks at them. So it's our job as the imaging technologist to acquire the best image possible so that the doctors can see the most detail on the image. There are times when a doctor may ask us to go back and take additional images, maybe from different angles, or to use different techniques to change the way it looks. They may send us back and have us ask the patient to take a bigger breath so that things are moved around. There are a lot of things that can occur during this exam to produce different types of images. But what we're answering here is, what is an X-ray tech, or what do they do? So, I mean, that's kind of an oversimplification, but that really is the whole part of it, is we acquire an image of a body part based on a doctor that told us what to take an image of. We'll talk here in a minute about verbal orders. We can take verbal orders, but it has to be followed up with a written order within 24 hours. There's different rules around that. We can go back to the doctor and say, hey, before we take the image, we can go to the doctor and say, hey, are you sure this is what you wanted, or did you want it this way? Did you mean to order a 5 view, or would a 3 view be enough? Because 5 means more radiation for the patient. We are trained to be an advocate for the patient and question orders that don't seem quite right. And to be fair, doctors can't be expected to know everything, so they're not going to know exactly how to order every type of exam that we do. So sometimes they get the exam names wrong or the protocols wrong, or they'll ask for contrast on things that don't need contrast, etc. So it is perfectly within our purview to go back and say, hey, doc, let's talk about this and see if we can come up with a better solution. The work of Rad Techs brings them to work closely with radiologists. Radiologists are the trained doctors who go through about 16 years of schooling and clinical rotations and residencies and specialties. Radiologists are the part of the imaging team who take the radiologic images from the technologist and interprets them and gives a report to the worried patients and family members. The radiologist's interpretations are documented as imaging reports in the patient record. These reports are then shared with the patient's physician who ordered the examination in the first place. So, what are the radiologic technologist educational qualifications? The academic qualification of a rad tech kind of expansive. They need to have knowledge when it comes to the details and structure of the human body. They need to understand the methods of positioning the human body for optimum imaging. They need knowledge of radiographic exposure techniques for patients and themselves to avoid possible overexposure. And they need a complete understanding of proper patient care and proper ergonomics for moving and lifting patients. On the physical aspect of the job, a rad tech needs to have good physical stamina, strong muscles, and good overall health. They have to remain standing for long periods of time, have to be prepared to lift and carry disabled patients to the radiographic machines, as well as move the radiologic equipment from time to time. In addition, they may be required to work more than the standard 40-hour work week and be on call when not at work. There's a lot to unpack in that one paragraph. But you do need to be physically in good shape. A job in radiology can be physically demanding. You're always supposed to ask for help. You're never supposed to do things all on your own that could cause injury. And as long as you follow that protocol, you'll be fine. So, can a radiologic technologist administer medication? The answer to that is yes, to some degree. It's mostly contrast agents and saline. So a nuclear medicine technologist, for example, administers contrast. MRI gives contrast. X-ray and CT, just about all the modalities almost give contrast. DEXA does not. There's probably some other I'm not thinking of, but most do give contrast, which is a medicine, and therefore we do administer medication. Can a rad tech do ultrasounds? Yes, but it requires additional on-the-job training or going back to school. You're not taught how to do ultrasounds in X-ray school. Typically, ultrasound programs take about 2 years to complete, and just like X-ray school, they require classroom or didactic studies and clinical rotations. Most ultrasound techs, or sonographers as they're called, start out in general X-ray, but not all of them. There are some ultrasound schools that do not require an X-ray license for admission. Although the school that I attended for ultrasound, which was Gateway Community College in Phoenix, Arizona, did require licensure for admission. Each school, though, has different guidelines, so check with the one you might be interested in. Either way, if you're interested in becoming a sonographer, you will need about 2 years of training. Ultrasound scanning is unlike any other imaging profession. It does not use X-rays or magnetic fields. It uses ultrasound waves, much like the submarines that you see in the movies or fish finders on a boat that looks for the fish below the water. Because of that unique imaging technique, a student would need to undergo a lot of training in how to properly use the technology and identify structures seen on the screen. Radiologists depend on sonographers to know what they're looking at when performing their diagnostic imaging exams. Where an X-ray exam or a CT scan captured an entire section of a body being imaged, ultrasound scanning only takes images of exactly where the ultrasound probe is pointing. So if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't be able to capture the right images in an ultrasound. So I'm back again. I'm just going to cut that one off right there because, as you can see, I started going off on a tangent really about what sonographers do, and that's not what this is about. This is about what X-ray techs do. Well, where I start getting off track in some of those is I get a lot of questions related to X-ray, and I started to answer those questions in this video, but really that's a separate topic. Um, I did catch myself on a couple of things watching that video that I should mention. For one, if you're really interested in knowing what an X-ray tech does, try to go shadow one. Shadow means spend a day with one at the job site. Now, the problem with that is back in the day, it was super easy to do, but now you've got all these rules and regulations about who can and can't see patient health information, or PHI. There's the HIPAA laws you may have heard about. It just means that you have to be super careful with what you see and show. And so some hospitals don't let people shadow anymore because it's a big legal liability to have you, a non-employee, walking around in a hospital department where you might see a patient record. So, but there still are some places that allow it. I think it is necessary to allow that, because how else are high school students and people that are interested in the field ever going to get an idea of what we do if they can't come watch something? And they're certainly never portraying what we do on TV. You know, all the medical shows, ER, and all that stuff. It's always about the doctors and the nurses, and it's never about the X-ray techs or the respiratory therapists or the nutritionist. You know, it's always the same characters over the surgeons and the doctors. And so I digress. Try to shadow if you can. All you have to do is call the hospital that you're interested in and say, my name's David. I'm interested in shadowing an X-ray tech because I'd like to. I'm thinking about doing that for a career, but before I go through all the work of applying to a school, I just wanted to come shadow somebody, even if it's just for an hour. You can see a lot of what an X-ray tech can do. 10 plus exams in an hour. I mean, we can really rock them out. Depends on where you work. So try to shadow if you really want to see. And the second thing I didn't mention that I think is important, and there's other things I'll think about after I'm done with this, but what's important for you to know, because you're checking out this field, is that we absolutely see horrible traumas. We see death. We see drown victims. We see strangulation. We see gunshot wounds. We see domestic abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse. These are things that they really don't prepare you for in school. They don't really tell you about it. You know, schools do their best to try to prepare you, but they really prepare you more for this is how you do an X-ray protocol type thing, not this is how you debrief after seeing two dead kids that drowned. So you need to know that in this field, and now you could get a job as an X-ray tech in an outpatient clinic where all your patients walk in and out under their own free will, and you won't see any traumas. But if you work in a hospital, especially a level 1 trauma hospital, and I worked in one for a while, you will see some things that you can't unsee. You will never forget. And you have to learn how to de-stress, detoxify, unwind, get over it, move on. And some of this stuff is tough. And that's really, you know, one of the things they don't tell you when you go to the school and you're watching their video that says how awesome their X-ray program is. They don't tell you this kind of stuff, and that's why I'm here. So shadow, know that there's traumas and you're going to see stuff and you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to poke people with needles because you're going to have to start IVs. That's a part of X-ray school. If you do OR rotations, you're going to see bodies cut open and that kind of thing. So I'll end it there. I don't feel I did a due diligence of everything that we do because there's so much that we do. You know, we cover the ER department, we cover the operating room, we cover all the outpatients that come in, we go portable with the equipment, they come to us. There's fluoroscopy we haven't even talked about yet, which is like a live X-ray television. There's just so much stuff that we do, which is part of why this is such an exciting career choice. But baby steps, right? I'm trying to take you through baby steps here, one thing at a time. That, from a helicopter view, is what X-ray techs do. If you have questions and you're following us on YouTube, go ahead and post them in the comments. If you're following us on my blog, where you're actually going through the survival guide, you can hit the contact button at the top and send me an email if you want, if you have questions. I just recorded a video today. Somebody is a student. They've already got 2 job offers. They haven't even graduated yet, and they are having to decide between these 2 different jobs. So I did a video on the pros and cons of both. Happy to do that stuff for you guys because I work in the field. I'm not a physicist who teaches at a university. Anyway, thanks for joining me. See you in the next video.